Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is R.S. Raghu bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring to you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. Indian cities gear up to host several G20 meetings under country's presidency. First Infrastructure Working Group meeting of G20 begins in Pune. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi says technologically advanced soldiers to play a key role in Indian armed forces in wake of new fronts of contactless warfare. India and UK exchange views on several issues including Afghanistan and Ukraine during Foreign Office consultation meeting. International Atomic Energy Agency to increase presence in Ukraine to prevent accident during ongoing conflict. Black box of crashed plane in Nepal recovered. In FIH World Cup Hockey, Malaysia beat Chile, Netherlands thrash New Zealand, France defeat South Africa in pool fixtures. Match between Argentina and Australia ends in a draw. And in women's cricket, India beat United Arab Emirates by 122 runs in Under-19 T20 World Cup in South Africa. We begin the world news with our segment G20 in India. Under India's G20 presidency, the country is hosting a series of meetings in various cities including Pune, Thiruvananthapuram, Mumbai, Bhopal and Gandhinagar. For the future, over 200 meetings are scheduled in around 50 cities, kicking off the year with a bang. We have a report.
The first meeting of the G20 Infrastructure Working Group began in Pune today in the presence of Union Minister Narayan Rane. Mr. Rane welcomed G20 delegates in Pune and opened the first session of the two-day meeting. He said the government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is trying to make India the fifth largest economy in the world, and G20 conference being held in Pune is very important in terms of economic progress of the country. Delegates will undertake a series of official meetings and discuss the 2023 infrastructure agenda and visit the Savitribai Phule Pune University for sapling plantation. The two-day Think 20 meeting commenced at Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh today. The first Think 20 meeting was inaugurated by Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan. Speaking on the occasion, Mr. Chauhan said that not only G20, all the countries of the world should come together and discuss the well-being of the entire world. He expressed confidence that this Think 20 meeting will play an important role in this direction. The Chief Minister said that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has carefully kept the theme of G20 under India's presidency as One Earth, One Family, One Future. The meeting is focused on global governance with life values and well-being, fostering cooperation in framework, finance and technology. In the meeting, more than 300 ministers, intellectuals and subject experts from India and abroad are brainstorming in various plenary and parallel sessions, roundtable conferences and group level. Think 20 or T20 is calling for policy brief abstracts from contributors. The last date for submitting abstracts is Tuesday. T20 will offer policy recommendations to the G20 leaders in the form of policy briefs. The T20 website states that the policy brief must aim to be a crisp research output that outlines the rationale for adopting a particular policy alternative. Contributors are invited to submit abstracts of proposed policy briefs focused on any of the T20 India task forces. The T20 website encourages collaboration between authors across institutions in G20 countries. The first Health Working Group meeting under India's G20 presidency will be held from the 18th to the 20th of January at Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala. India is currently part of the G20 Troika, comprising Indonesia, India and Brazil, marking the first time that the Troika is consisting of three developing and emerging economies. The health track of the G20 India presidency will comprise 4 Health Working Group meetings and 1 Health Ministerial meeting. The meetings will be held in different locations across the country, including at Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala, Goa, Hyderabad in Telangana and at Gandhinagar in Gujarat. Business 20 B20 Inception meeting will be organized at Gandhinagar in Gujarat between the 22nd to the 24th of this month. This will be the first of 15 events that the state is set to organize as part of India's G20 presidency. The inaugural ceremony of the B20 Inception meeting will be attended by Union Ministers Piyush Goyal and Ashwini Vaishnav, State Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel, India Sherpa to G20 Amitabh Kant and Tata Sons Chairman N. Chandrasekharan. More than 150 policymakers, business executives, CEOs and senior executives representing enterprises from G20 countries will take part in the inaugural meeting. Valsa Williams for World News.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you an interview with Dr. Manasi Gore, Department of Economics, Savitribai Phule, Pune University on G20 First Infrastructure Working Group meeting.
First G20 Infrastructure Working Group meeting is being held in Pune on 16th and 17th January 2023. On this backdrop, we are going to have an interaction with Dr. Manasi Gore, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics, Savitribai Phule, Pune University. She is into teaching for 25 years and has also authored 2 books on economics. Madam, I welcome you to the studios of All India Radio.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
India has got the presidency of G20 in 2023, but 2023 is also the year to establish India's global leadership. India not only holds the presidency of G20, but in 2023, India also holds the presidency of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, also known as the SCO, another very important global organization. Similarly, the third one, called the Wassenaar Agreement, is also chaired by India. India was also the President of the United Nations Security Council in 2022. India was also the Chairman of the Executive Council of the World Health Organization. India is present in every important international and regional organization you see in the world today. On this backdrop, we will have a sneak peek into the economic and infrastructural readiness of India to take a lead in G20 and beyond. Madam, what are your observations?
Yes, the year 2023 is surely India's global leadership year, and holding the presidency of G20 is very prestigious for India as being one of the fastest growing economy of the world. The position of India in the UN Security Council as well as in the Executive Council of WHO indeed is showing India's very positive role in the global economy. This can be explained by few indicators that prove India's international image with its progress in last couple of decades. And basically this talks about India's economic readiness. If we look at India's position today, it is 5th in the GDP rank with $3.469 trillion of GDP in the year 2022. The GDP growth rate of India had been 6.8% in 2021 and 6.3% in 2022. And if you notice, it is not of any economy of the world, including that of US. The HDI score of India stands at 0.633, which is in medium range. Ease of doing business rank of Indian economy as a whole, it is 63rd, and it indicates that it is very easy to do any business in India, and that is very impressive for the foreign investors. The forex reserves of India stands today at $588 billion. It is having the second largest labor force in the world, amounting to almost 50 crores, and that is a huge amount that we have. It is also a 6th largest manufacturing hub with 2.6% of the global output, and this is how economically India is very ready for this G20 perspective.
Yes, quite true. Madam, G20 countries account for 85% of the world's trade. These nations account for 75% of the global GDP. And these nations have 75% of the world's population living in them. It includes all types of nations, both developed and developing. Of course, the decisions taken by them affect the economy of the world. India has raised the issues of black money, financial criminals, corporate tax rates, etc. The various issues raised by India from this forum have been taken seriously by the world. What do you say?
Yeah, true. India has globally raised the issues of black money and financial criminals, as you mentioned, and it has worked within the economy also on these issues such as corruption, economic disparities with certain policy measures. I would name few of them such as digital payments, direct cash transfers to the beneficiaries, Jan Dhan accounts and opening of them, and some of the targeted subsidies that India worked on with this conviction.
Yeah, we'll more elaborate on this point only. The World Bank has praised India's economic initiatives in its reports. For example, the digital public infrastructure that India has built in the last 8 years would have taken much longer for any other country. Rupee card, UPI, FASTag, the digital transformation and the progress India has made in a short period of time in terms of startups and unicorns. The G20 forum will definitely be useful for India to present it to the world.
Sure. India's development on digital infrastructure is really amazing, as it has been mentioned by the World Bank. Digital payments, online payments and e-commerce has really changed the life of common man in India, which was never ever expected. It has further promoted inclusive growth of the economy. Technological and digital infrastructure has completely changed the way of life by more easy, speedy and cashless transactions for the masses, and this is a great change. This has helped to reduce corruption on a large scale. Even the smallest monetary transaction is accounted by the UPI payments. A small chaiwala or a small tapri, that also is accounted in terms of its transactions, and that is very important.
Madam, in terms of demography, Young India is the brand ambassador for Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat, Fit India. The country has very high expectations from the youth. They are the big assets for the country. Almost 60% of our population is below 35. So India will be a leading workforce for the world, as you said earlier. What are your suggestions for the youth to benefit from this?
Yes, Young India no doubt is the opportunity to reap the so-called demographic dividend. Demographic dividend, as we all know, it's a dividend which is to be paid on an asset. If the demography is considered as an asset, demography is definitely going to enjoy the dividend. It has the second largest labor force in the economy of the world, with good education, relatively better skill development along with its cost effectiveness. Indian labor is demanded worldwide for being cheaply available across the world. However, if this huge workforce is to be converted in terms of as an asset to get a dividend, it needs to be well oriented and well planned, and I think that is the biggest challenge before the economy. The educated labor force must fulfill the global demand by necessary skill sets in terms of soft skill development, and that is very important. At the same time, the new educational policy which we have adopted in 2020 and would be effective right from this academic year would be in a position to effectively implement with more practical approach, because merely the graduates in terms of quantity are not going to be useful. On the contrary, they will be useless unless they are qualified by skill sets and market approach. Increasing the youth employability, therefore, I think would be the biggest challenge here if we really want to turn this demographic dividend in terms of an asset.
Very well said, madam. And lastly, how smart cities like Pune, because the two meetings are going to be held in Pune, how cities like Pune are to benefit from the organization of meetings leading to the G20 conference?
Yes. In case of smart cities like Pune, and how they would be benefiting from this G20 meetings that are taking place in India, basically. We need to basically look at India's G20 priorities. And they all tend to prioritize the smart and sustainable cities and living for the people within them, not only in India, but for the entire globe. If we just look at the theme of India's G20 presidency, it is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam,
yes,
which is a Sanskrit concept from Upanishads, and which basically means one earth, one family and one future. And this can be achieved by India's G20 priorities, which are listed on official document of India, is green development, climate finance and lifestyle for environment, accelerated, inclusive and resilient growth of the economy, accelerated progress on sustainable development goals, which is agenda for 2030. We are interested to have that kind of a world where all the economies would be sustainable. Then technological transformation and digital public infrastructure, multilateral institutions for 21st century, and finally the women-led development. All these priorities, if you look at, they clearly indicate our value for all lives, humans, animals, plants, microorganisms, and their interconnectedness that would enable the sustainable development, of which smart cities along with smart villages is an integral part. And therefore, G20 is a platform where India can showcase its strategies and see to it that the world too reinforces the same as it is.
One thing is clear from this, that today there are 193 countries in the world, but everyone wants to partner with India. Today all the European countries as well as all the big advanced developed rich countries need India. Prime Minister Modi had made a very important statement a few months ago that till date the big international organizations used to set their agenda and make their rules, and India followed them scrupulously. Now the situation has changed. Now India is setting the agenda of these international organizations. India is making the rules and the world is following them. I think no one can stop this country from becoming a superpower in the 21st century. And when this country becomes a superpower, every youth in the country will be a brand ambassador of the country. Thank you, Dr. Manas Sigore, for coming to our studios and enlightening our listeners on the niceties about the economic and infrastructural readiness of India to take a lead on the G20 forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is All India Radio giving you the world news. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi has said technologically advanced soldiers will play a key role in Indian armed forces in the wake of the new fronts of contactless warfare and challenges of cyber warfare. He said the current generation of youth especially have this potential, and so the Agniveers will play a leading role in the armed forces in the times to come. Mr. Modi said this while addressing through video conferencing the first batch of Agniveers of the three services who have commenced their basic training. He said that New India is filled with renewed vigor and efforts are underway to modernize the armed forces as well as make them Atmanirbhar. Mr. Modi congratulated the Agniveers on being the pioneers of this path-breaking Agnipath scheme, highlighting that this transformative policy will be a game-changer in strengthening Indian armed forces and making them future-ready for the challenges that lie ahead. The 21st edition of the bilateral naval exercise between India and France, Exercise Varna, commenced on the western seaboard on Monday. The exercise will be conducted till the 20th of this month and will witness advanced air defense exercises, tactical maneuvers, surface firings, underway replenishment and other maritime operations. The Ministry of Defence in a statement said the exercise provides an opportunity to learn from each other's best practices. While the bilateral exercise between the two navies was initiated in 1993, it was christened as Varna in 2001 and has become a hallmark of India-France's strategic bilateral relationship. The 15th India-UK Foreign Office Consultations FOC was held today in New Delhi. India and the UK shared a comprehensive strategic partnership with the adoption of Roadmap 2030 for future relations. India's External Affairs Ministry said both sides discussed issues like trade and economic cooperation, defense and security, science and technology, people-to-people relationship, health and climate change. The FOC provided an opportunity to review the progress made in the implementation of Roadmap 2030 despite the restrictions imposed by the COVID pandemic. The ministry said India and the UK exchanged views on regional and global issues of mutual interest, including Afghanistan, Ukraine, the Indo-Pacific, the Commonwealth, and the United Nations. The UK appreciated India's contribution to the UN Security Council in 2021-22 as a non-permanent member and reiterated its support for UNSC reforms. The UK commended India's priorities as president of G20 this year as it looked forward to its participation. India's overall exports combining merchandise and services in April to December 2022 is estimated to exhibit a positive growth of 16.11% over the same period last year. Ministry of Commerce and Industry in its data said the country's overall exports during the period are estimated to be $568.57 billion as against $489.69 billion over the same period of last year. Speaker of the lower house of Indian Parliament Om Birla, who is leading an Indian parliamentary delegation to Kenya and Tanzania, met Deputy President of Kenya Rigathi Gachagua on Monday. Speaking on this occasion, Mr. Birla said that India and Kenya have historically close relations and both the countries have fought against colonialism. The annual meeting of the World Economic Forum WEF began at Davos in Switzerland on Monday, with heads of state and business leaders focusing on the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict and economic instability amid climate change. The meeting will continue till the 20th of this month under the theme of cooperation in a fragmented world. Names shaping the global politics and business world are participating in the forum. The meeting will also see attendance by 56 finance ministers, 19 central bank heads, 30 trade ministers and 35 foreign ministers. It will convene more than 2,700 leaders from 130 countries, including 50 heads of state and government, as multiple crises deepen divisions and fragment the geopolitical landscape. This year will also see the highest ever business participation at Davos, with more than 1,500 leaders from 700 organizations. Amid the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, the International Atomic Energy Agency IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi on Monday said the agency is expanding its presence in Ukraine to provide all possible nuclear safety and security. Taking to Twitter, the IAEA chief said the agency is increasing its presence in Ukraine to help prevent a nuclear accident during the ongoing conflict. The IAEA said the Director General would travel to South Ukraine and Readiness nuclear power plants NPPs and the Chernobyl site to launch the missions, consisting of the two IAEA experts at each of the facilities. The UN agency in a statement said Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi will be in Ukraine next week to establish a continuous presence of nuclear safety and security experts at all the country's nuclear power facilities, significantly stepping up the efforts of the International Atomic Energy Agency to help prevent a nuclear accident during the current military conflict. According to an official statement of the IAEA, a new team of the 3 IAEA experts will replace the previous team that had been there for several weeks. A former female member of Afghanistan's parliament has been killed by unknown gunmen at her home in Kabul. Police said that former MP Mursal Nabizada and her guard were shot dead and her brother was injured in the attack on Sunday. The security forces have started a serious investigation regarding the case to find the criminals. Ms. Nabizada had been a lawmaker until the Taliban took over as foreign forces withdrew in 2021 when many politicians fled the country. She had been elected as a member of the lower house of parliament in 2018 to represent Kabul. In Nepal, the black box of the Yeti Airlines aircraft, which crashed a day ago with 68 passengers on board, has been located and retrieved. Nepal saw its worst domestic air disaster on Sunday morning when Yeti Airlines flight NYT 691 from Kathmandu to Pokhara crashed a few minutes before landing at the new international airport. All passengers on board died in the accident. Our Kathmandu correspondent has the details.
The 24 recovered bodies from the crash site were taken to Pokhara Institute of Health Sciences for post-mortem, while 45 dead bodies of foreigners deceased from Kathmandu and unidentified bodies were sent to Nepal's capital city. The black box of the crashed Yeti airline aircraft was located and retrieved today morning. The Nepal Army brought the black box to Kathmandu and handed it over to the Air Crash Investigation Commission. The black box is a crucial device that helps determine the cause of the crash and contains the flight radar record and cockpit voice recorder. Shraddha Singh for World News, Kathmandu.
Nepal is witnessing the revival in tourism sector. As per reports, in the year 2022, over 13,500 trekkers visited the most popular trekking route of Annapurna Circuit as compared to the year 2021, when only 2,273 tourists visited the place. The Annapurna Circuit is one of the world's classic long-distance hiking trails and still is one of Nepal's most popular treks. World's longest river cruise MV Ganga Vilas reached Indian city of Patna in Bihar as per schedule. Chairman Inland Waterways Authority of India Sanjay Bandyopadhyay said there is absolutely no truth in the news that the vessel is stuck at Chapra. The vessel will continue its onwards journey as per schedule. World's longest river cruise is on way to Dibrugarh in Assam through Bangladesh. 32 tourists from Switzerland are reveling in the beautiful moments of the journey. The Sensex and the Nifty on Monday witnessed modest losses. We have a report.
The Sensex slipped 168 points to settle at 60,093. The Nifty also fell 62 points to finish at 17,895. Among global stock markets, Asian shares ended mixed. China's Shanghai Composite Index gained 1% and South Korea's Kospi rose 0.6%, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng ended flat. On the other hand, Singapore's Straits Times slipped 0.3% and Japan's Nikkei 225 declined 1.2%. European shares were up in intraday trade. Oil prices held near this year's highs as easing COVID restrictions in China raised expectations for a demand recovery in the world's top crude importer. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading at $85 per barrel. Back home at the multi-commodity exchange, gold futures for February were trading at 56,460 rupees per 10 grams. Silver futures for March were trading at 69,440 rupees per kilogram when reports last came in. V. Ravi Kumar for World News All India Radio.
In the FIH Hockey Men's World Cup, Malaysia beat Chile 3-2 at the Birsa Munda Stadium in Rourkela this afternoon. In another match, the Netherlands thrashed New Zealand 4-0 at the same venue. Later in the evening, France defeated South Africa 2-1 at the Kalinga Stadium in Bhubaneswar. The match between Australia and Argentina ended in a 3-3 draw in the same venue. In women's cricket, India beat United Arab Emirates UAE by 122 runs in the Under-19 T20 World Cup at Willowmoor Park in South Africa on Monday to stay on top of Group D. Chasing the target of 220 runs set by India, UAE scored 97 runs for the loss of 5 wickets in the stipulated 20 overs. Earlier put into bat, India posted 219 runs, losing 3 wickets. India will take on Scotland on Thursday. The Australian Open tennis kicked off at Melbourne Park on Monday. Defending champion Rafael Nadal began his campaign by defeating debutant Jack Draper of Britain to reach the second round of men's singles. Nadal, bidding for a record-extending 23rd Grand Slam title, will next face American Mackenzie McDonald for a place in the third round. In men's singles, third-seeded Stefanos Tsitsipas, sixth-seeded Felix Auger-Aliassime and seventh-seeded Daniil Medvedev also registered victories in the first round. In women's singles, world number 1 Iga Swiatek made a winning start in the tournament. The Polish player defeated German Jules Yemir in straight sets. Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Straits Times writes, Johor Bahru Singapore Rapid Transit System link on track to be operational by end 2026. The Global Times writes, scientists from China overseas obtain valuable data from Tianwen-1 during the sun outage. The Guardian also writes, Italy's most wanted mafia boss Matteo Messina Dinero arrested. The Washington Post reports Germany's defense minister resigns after strings of blunders. Wall Street Journal writes, electric vehicles made up 10% of all new cars sold last year. And the Financial Times writes, Taiwan presidential contender sparks U.S. concerns over China tensions. A quick look at the headlines once again. Indian cities gear up to host several G20 meetings under country's presidency. First infrastructure working group meeting of G20 begins in Pune. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi says technologically advanced soldiers to play a key role in Indian armed forces in wake of new fronts of contactless warfare. India and the UK exchange views on several issues including Afghanistan and Ukraine during Foreign Office consultation meeting. International Atomic Energy Agency to increase presence in Ukraine to prevent accident during ongoing conflict. Black box of crashed plane in Nepal recovered. In FIH World Cup Hockey, Malaysia beat Chile, Netherlands thrashed New Zealand, France defeat South Africa in pool fixtures. Match between Argentina and Australia ends in a draw. And in women's cricket, India beat United Arab Emirates by 122 runs in Under-19 T20 World Cup in South Africa. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Denmark.
Vaishnav Jan tu peene kahiye पीड़ा पराई जाने रे पर दुखे उपकार करे तोए मन अभिमान नाणे रे सकल लोग ना सहने बंदे निंदा न करे कहने रे बात का.
And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.